and welcome to the DME podcast, brought to you by DME, the podcast booking platform. Whether you're a podcaster or an aspiring guest, the DME app is a perfect platform for you to get booked and manage your podcast bookings. I'm your host, Sukhay, the founder of DME, and on this podcast, we'll be discussing the latest news and views in tech, the ins and outs of entrepreneurship, and even dipping our toes into the adrenaline-filled world of mixed martial arts. In this episode, we have the pleasure of speaking with Ninder Johal, a prominent business influencer and entrepreneur whose journey is as captivating as it is instructive. Ninder's story is one of perseverance, vision, and impact. We explore his beginnings as a musician with a vision to bring Bhangra music into the mainstream, risking it all on what looked like a thankless task, and we also get a behind-the-scenes look at how the music industry really works. Transitioning away from music, Ninder explains the motivations behind the Nachural Business Awards, establishing a hugely successful influencer brand, whilst also cementing himself as a business champion in the West Midlands and for Great Britain. Ninder shares some valuable insights into the keys to success for a budding entrepreneur, the importance of humility in leadership, and warns against the pursuit of growth at the expense of cash flow. You can find the next signature awards at Ninder's website, natural.co.uk, as well as details on his latest offering, the Business Influencer magazine. This conversation is well worth listening to, so please enjoy Ninder Johal. Ninder Johal, welcome to the DME podcast. Thank you for agreeing to do this.
And good afternoon, and thank you for the invite.
No problem at all. So just kind of give a brief introduction. I kind of came across you on Twitter about 5-6 years ago now.
Okay.
Even maybe before that, aware of the signature awards that you've been a part of. But I've just kind of found out you've got a longer and more storied history than just award shows.
Yeah, so the award shows, we've only been running now for about 9 years. So prior to that, I spent a considerable amount of time in the music industry.
Okay.
And specifically the Bhangra industry, but then took the Bhangra industry or the Bhangra movement into global.
Okay.
Into the global charts. So
you're the one to blame.
Yes, that. And it's and of course, you know my involvement with the genre as a tabla player and as the manager. And it was that involvement, playing with the band, that sort of persuaded me to drop my corporate job, which is quite a good job actually at the time when my parents weren't happy, and start a record company, of which Achanak was then the first artist. And then I signed a number of artists, including Punjabi MC. And then he then moved on to another label, but I kept pushing the track, kept pushing it. And it took 12 years. At 12 years, I think 4,872 days to persuade the mainstream that they should take the Bhangra movement seriously.
That's quite interesting. So, I mean, probably a similar age-ish, but when I was young, I was never massively into the Bhangra scene myself. Obviously, all my friends and social network were. Obviously, you pick up on the song, and every time you see the vague hindrance of a ball or a bubble on TV, or wow, there's up there on TV.
Yeah.
So, what kind of barriers did you face in trying to break through?
Well, okay. So the first part of the journey was that obviously when I dropped the job and I got into Bhangra movement, we were only selling to Opry. Or we Opry is Asian people.
Yeah.
So they were typically age 12 to about 25. And then with the genre, we decided to go and play at big festivals outside in Europe. And as we started to play in Europe, I saw the opportunity. I thought, well, hold on. I know I had a dream of trying to get this into the mainstream.
Yeah.
Actually, this is possible because there are 100,000 white people dancing to Bhangra music.
Yeah.
So the restrictions I had, or the obstacles, was this music can't cross. This music is only for Asian people because the lyrics are Punjabi, the melody is Punjabi, the instrumentation on the whole is Punjabi. Okay, there's the drums and the bass. So I suppose the obstacles I faced was, you're not going very far with this.
Yeah.
You're off your trolley. You should be in a mental institution. This will only ever sell to Asian kids. Why are you bothering?
Yeah.
And when I spent then those 12 years traveling around the world with those CDs, trouble was, it wasn't just the Asians saying it. Everybody was saying it. So whether I was meeting the Greeks, the Norwegians, the Swiss, they would all say, don't understand this. Nobody will buy this. Go away. And I remember my 10th year, so I'd travel abroad every year with the FCDs. Because remember, I think the one thing about entrepreneurship is nothing comes knocking on your door.
No, you have to go.
You have to go out and find it.
Yeah.
You then have to convince people that what you have to offer is something worth buying. If you think, and you're in cuckoo land, if you think someone is going to knock it on your door, burst into the door down for your product or service, or get a lot of expertise, then I think, you're mistaken. So yeah, the obstacles were all around. Initially, we did well with the label, and the banks were amazed. I remember I went to the bank and said, I want to set up a record company. I had to explain to what a record company was. Whether my parents still didn't understand what a record company was. And I was fortunate. Actually, it was even more difficult because before that, when I set the band at John O'Cup, we needed keyboard. And I remember going into the bank and saying, so of the band, I was the only one who had a job and a house. If that makes sense.
Right, okay.
So when I went to see the bank manager, I said, we need some finance. He said, what for? I said, I want to set up a band. You could imagine. You want to set up a band. That's right. So how much do you need? We need about £30,000 for a band. And he said, okay. Now, where I was fortunate, and I say this to people, is I'd got an MBA, master's. So it allowed me to put a coherent argument together on paper in terms of a business plan. And so that at least I was able to present it, give projections. And so he said, okay. And obviously, you took the keys to my house at the same time.
Yeah, of course.
But that enabled me then to get the money to sort of finance the band. And then interestingly, my leadership skills, if I got some, were developed over time managing a bunch of creatives.
Yeah.
So they were all 18, 19 years old. And not only do you have to manage them when you go abroad to do gigs, but you've got to manage them in the rehearsals, you've got to manage them on the... Does that make sense? So I learned, even out of the MBA, my leadership skills were learned through managing a set of creative people. And so as we started to play abroad, I became more and more convinced that the dream that I had, bringing up music, actually was a distinct possibility.
Okay.
Because these people were now listening. The challenge was to turn the sound into a commercial record.
Yes.
That was the thing. Okay, they were all flocking to listen to it or watch it. Would they buy a record? And then one day the Vatican came along, and again, I did the trips all 5 years and finding a little record company in Italy. And you know something, you create your own opportunities and you create your own luck.
Right.
So when people say you're lucky, you're not lucky, you create your own luck. So a little Italian company took it on and said, we're not going to give you much money. In fact, we're going to give you no money. We'll give you a royalty.
Yeah.
At that point, I said, you have to take it, just expose the music. And then, so that was where did I meet them? I met them in France. That's right. A big show in France with all the record companies to get together. And then about 6 months later, I met a Turkish company in Greece, I think it was. Yeah, I can't remember. I was traveling all over the place. And they said the same thing. I said, you can go for it. This is where the break came, luck, whatever you want to call it. The DJs in Istanbul started to play the record.
Okay.
And it started to get a lot of traction. But the real luck came in. Turkey and Germany as countries are closely aligned together.
Yeah, a lot of Turks in it.
Yeah. So the Turkish DJs took it to Germany. And that's where they did the damage in the nightclubs. And that's when I got a call from Universal saying, we don't understand the music, can't understand the lyrics, people love it. We want the music. And then it rolled, and I gave them some parts of Europe. And then I was on Oxford Street, and this is in the summer, and I heard the track come on. I thought, must be one of our people that turned around, and it was 5 young white people dancing in their open boot Beetle. I thought, we're onto something here.
Wow.
Then we signed to Sony in the UK, and then they said it's on Radio 1 playlist. And then I left again to go overseas. And just as I left to go overseas, I rang Sony up and I said, how's the track doing?
Yeah.
I'm hearing it on Radio 1. How's it doing? They said, we think it's going to go top 10. I said, well, okay, let's see what happens. So I got abroad, back to France. And in those days, they used to do the charts on a Sunday.
Yeah.
So they started calling the charts out. Number 10, we weren't there. Number 9, we weren't there. 8, 7, 6, 5. I thought, oh, well, didn't do it. And then they said it. Number 5, straight in, went down the budget.
Yeah.
We charted. And then over the next 10 years, we've sold over about 15 million copies.
Wow. There's still any kind of event.
Yeah.
If there's a tinge of Asian anywhere there, that one is the song that gets played.
And you'll see it on TV and synchronization licenses and films. And so that was my first tough, but that was my first taste of entrepreneurship.
So what was that time frame then from when you first kind of picked up the song to it?
Okay.
Debut number 5 in the chart?
Yeah. So that would be, I think that was how much, 98, 4 years.
4 years.
And prior to that, I'd been going around the world trying to sell Bhangra music generally. And we did a lot of license deals for John Rick, the band I play with, and we did a lot of license deals, a lot of shows and everything. But it took 4 years. And I remember on my 10th year, so that was the end of the 4th year, and I was just to get to whatever part of the world, I'd ring in, and I'd say to my wife, I've arrived, just checking into the hotel, see you in a few days' time. I remember on my 10th trip, she said, give it up. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You've been at this for 10 years now. Sometimes dreams, sometimes don't come true. And that year was the year I did the deals. And as they say, the rest is history.
Yeah, so the lesson is the wife isn't always right.
That's an interesting one. Never thought of that one. I certainly won't repeat that, though.
Yeah, definitely. No, we'll cut that out of the episode in case you're not half listen. Okay, that's fantastic. So, I mean, the years after that, were you trying to replicate that or expand on it in the music industry? Or did you kind of go?
Yeah, see now, what happened there, it's a difficult thing to probably explain, but when you set out with something that was just an unassailable dream and you achieve it, actually there's nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I know it's a bit weird.
It's like a sports of winning the ultimate competition, or the Premier League or the Champions League. It's like,
where do I go now? And then what made my decision then? So for about 2-3 years, we were still selling around the world. And the thing called a mobile phone came along. And in 2007, Mr. Jobs made an announcement. And he said, on your mobile phone, he said, you can download any track when you want, and whatever price, and you can pick whichever track you want. That fortunately changed our business model because we were selling physical tracks then. And at that point, the market wasn't strong enough to sustain that. So obviously we went online and started streaming, but I thought, well, now time to move on to something else.
Yeah.
So we looked at our skill set. We were good at branding, we were good at promotion, we understood entertainment. So we moved into events, and that's when the signature brand was born.
Okay. So what was the idea behind the Signature Awards and Signature events?
Well, yeah, by this stage, I was president of the Chamber of Commerce, Black Country Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, okay.
And so I saw that, when you run your own business, you only think of your own circle, that you don't think there's lots of other entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And you don't think of networking. You just do what you've got to do. And I think being at the Chamber, I understood the role of actually bringing businesses together, celebrating enterprise, celebrating risk takers, and celebrating wealth creation. And so, whereas the Chamber of Commerce was restricted to a certain postcode, and they all are, just to work in the Black Country, I thought there was an opportunity to put an event together across the country where wealth creators, people in the business community could come together to network, to talk, to challenge, to share knowledge, and to celebrate. And that's where the signature brand was born. And the overriding sort of objective was to bring communities from all different communities together, but with one common aim, which was to create wealth.
Okay. That's quite obvious. You must have, that's, when was that? So that's what? 15?
15. So next year will be our 10th year.
Okay. There must be some, I've been to one of your events, and it's quite the show. Really well laid out.
Well, they consider music the entertainment background.
Yeah, exactly.
Helps with that. You see, the entertainment background helps.
there must be some kind of amusing stories over the years, and there's probably some, not all that you probably share, but because you've had quite a few high-profile speakers. I mean, generally all filled with high-profile speakers, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
Giving advices, but so I mean, I'll quite drunk at all night. There must be quite a few tales that have kind of happened over the years.
Well, yeah. I mean, we do get some very interesting people that come. Some amazing speakers. We've had the Dragons, Den Piers Linney.
Yes.
We've had the Gypsy billionaire, Alfie Best.
Oh, okay.
He's been there. Ex-chair of Burberry, Sir John Peace. He's spoken. And we've had the chap, and this is extraordinary, Dennis DeMudger, and he had run this, and he was the front cover of our magazine. He lost $700 million on one night. And how do you cope with losing that much? And that's another story in itself.
Yeah.
So we've had some really interesting people with some really interesting backstories. But what's key amongst them all, though, is their level of perseverance, their level of resilience, and their focus.
You must have identified that with your kind of music history, haven't you?
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, when you see them and talk to them, you see they're very, very, very focused in what they do. And they're actually fantastic people. So there's some, as I said, we have some really great Paul Bassey's. He's into property and real estate. He's been a speaker. The chap used to be CEO at the NEC Group, one of the biggest leisure places. Paul Fandy, he's been a speaker. And we've had some outstanding speakers. And the guy who founded Reebok, Joel Foster, he was a speaker. The guy went through, in 5 years, went from 30 million turnover to 900 million turnover.
Wow.
And that's an astonishing story. Yeah. All the way from Blackburn.
Yeah, it's a basic wealth, I think. Yeah. Oh, okay. So, I mean...
Bolton, really. Sorry,
Bolton. Because they're managing the... So, of those years, because at the moment you see a lot of entrepreneurs, and nowadays all 21-year-olds are entrepreneurs on Instagram. Have you seen the traits of an entrepreneur or a successful person change, or are they generally those resilience and perseverance? Are they still...
I think those ingredients still apply. I think those ingredients apply. I think what's changed now is the world moves faster, moves quicker. I think trends move quicker. I think the internet has changed the way we think about the world. So I think you need to be cognizant of the newer models, the technology, and I think there's more opportunities probably to scale quicker. Because you don't deal with physical product anymore. You're dealing a lot with the internet. So I think there's more opportunities to scale and quicker. But the basic skills of an entrepreneur still remain the same, which is, as we said, resilience, focus, being positive. And I think one thing that will never change is, in a lot of businesses, irrespective of sector, irrespective of whether it's infrastructure or digital, will always be managing the cash. Managing the monies. And if you can manage the monies and the cash whilst doing all those other things, then you'll do well. Trouble is, too many people go for fast growth and lose the numbers. And we've seen some whole profile businesses go down simply because, actually, interestingly, despite their size, they never watch the numbers. Or were perhaps too optimistic with the numbers. So I think, I think to be an entrepreneur needs a lot of traits, and maybe that's why they're always known as the master of nothing, but the jack of everything. Because actually they're brilliant at managing the whole complexity, the whole big picture of being an entrepreneur.
No, I think looking after the cash is certainly one that, by one of my good friends, David Hunley, who's a serial entrepreneur back in the early original .com days. And he's always kind of said to us, he's like, be a slave to the pound. I thought, he's a right line. I don't necessarily follow the ethos that much, as much as I should. But I think it's a good one to have. It's like, that, look after the pounds and pennies, look after the pennies and pounds. Pounds will look after themselves, as the saying goes. So you've been obviously based around the Midlands and obviously Chamber of Commerce for the Black Country, but I think you've got a lot of connections and a really wide network within the Midlands. How do you kind of see the growth of the Midlands business and enterprise area at the moment?
I think the Midlands is an interesting area. So the Midlands, East and West. I think it's 11 million people, 20 world-class universities. I think, if I remember, 280 odd billion worth in GVA. So in other words, it's the biggest economic region outside of London. It's strong in life sciences. It's traditionally been always strong in manufacturing. In terms of location, it's right in the middle of the country, so it's great for logistics. And we've spoken about what does the future look like, and I think your ability to harness technology is important. So we're doing the Midlands Economic Summit on the 10th of June, and we're going to be looking at something called devolution. In other words, how much power central government gives to politicians in the Midlands to do their own things. So like, we should be investing in areas we think is right. I think it's got a lot of talent. So we're talking about world-class university, talking about logistics. So its biggest problem, most in the UK, is productivity. In other words, getting people to earn more per hour. That's something we need to look at, and we need to understand what are the things that are stopping productivity. Is it the infrastructure, both physical and digital? HS2 wasn't great answering that, because that was meant to improve productivity in terms of transport. Can we get the skills right? So anybody's going to set up a business, can't really by yourself. You need skilled people. Where are you going to find those skilled people? Can we improve the skills? Can we improve the infrastructure? Some people remarkably still don't know how to use the internet properly.
I find that hard to believe, but I think you're probably right.
There's a lot of people are still not digitally educated. They should be. Whilst we're improving education, there's still a lot of people who aren't properly educated. So I think there's a lot of challenges, but the opportunities are for the biggest economy outside the UK, outside London, and with all those attributes I referred to. And really, we should be harnessing technology, harnessing education, and harnessing the power of infrastructure to power the region even further.
So I think I take a passing interest in politics, not in the weeds of it. So obviously, we just had a mayoral election, and I think Andy Street has just voted out, and it's now a Labour mayor. Do you have any kind of opinions on that and how the future will look over the next few years under a different
Well, interesting. I did a great job. I'm sure Richard being the new mayor, will do a great job. In the East Midlands, they have their mayor for the first time. Now, what's interesting is both the Labour, and if the polls are correct, then we're looking at the Labour government. If the polls are correct, it'll be interesting then how you triangulate. Central is Labour, East is Labour, West is Labour, North is Labour. With Manchester. And it'll be interesting now as to whether Labour will devolve, in other words, let powers more to the regions and say, you go and do what's right, and we'll keep a national framework. So we don't know. So we'll have, we've got new local mayors. It'll be interesting if we have a new government, what the landscape looks like beyond January 2025. But if it's true, then the elections will happen sometime in the autumn. So I think I won't call it a dead government, because in the last 2 or 3 months, not what you can do. So it will be interesting how 2025 pans out.
Certainly will. One to watch anyway. So in terms of kind of for your own business and the award, I've just come and looked at your business info magazine, which is kind of really well produced and looks great actually. What's the kind of future for looking for the signature with the Nachural brand over the next few years?
One interesting thing. So the Influencer magazine, I remember I talked about in 2007, we had our first turbulent as a business. That was our COVID then. Because our business model changed overnight. And we know COVID drove a lot of businesses to the ground. And some of those businesses then flourished are now struggling because people no longer need the products they needed to cancel the bike out on things. And the last word on here, a lot of people now don't meet person to person rather than going through the Zoom and the meeting. So people with those kind of products are now struggling a bit. So for us, when COVID came, we're moving an events production company. So the music was doing all right, streaming wise. Actually, we did okay with the music, but the events were stand still. So the issue we then had was how do we continue to communicate and liaise with our community of entrepreneurs that we built up? And that's where the magazine came in. So we've never done publishing before. I knew roughly, it was like reading the news. So we knew how to put it together. it's an expensive magazine, as you can see, but it's available in W.H. Smith's because they liked it.
Yeah.
And then somebody connected us to America and they liked it. So something that started just as a little project, suddenly we're selling in 1,000 stores in America.
Oh, wow.
We're selling in 300 stores in Canada. We're selling at W.H. Smith's travel, railway stations, airports. We're now product available in all 5-star hotels in London. And of course, people are subscribing and buying the physical copy as well as subscribing digitally. So the question is, where does this take us? So if you want to read about business, you can buy the magazine. Mm-hmm. If you want to browse through, you can read it digitally. If you want to listen and watch business, you can go to our podcast, Business Influencer Podcast. And if you want to meet people in business, you come to the events. So actually you can touch, you can feel, then you can see business through our ecosystem.
I love that model. You've got the whole world cornered up.
and the next logical step, on the way I was having a chat with a friend of mine, and when we're looking at now taking the brand, with the influencers doing well as a magazine, we're taking the brand potentially into Dubai, Middle East, into India, and potentially the lady who looks after my magazine in America, potentially speaking about and talking about doing an event in America. So lots of scope, lots of opportunities. Watch the numbers, stay focused, remember what you're good at and what you're not good at, and don't do things that are completely outside of your expertise. If the likelihood of failure then is high.
That's awesome. Wish you all the best with it. Just on the last final point, then, in terms of your own personal journey, your own personal growth, is there any kind of recommendations you can make to other aspiring entrepreneurs or just people interested in business and how to improve themselves?
Yeah, so remember my failure back in 2007. So I failed, by the way, I wasn't alone. Most of the music industry failed. We failed to see the threat of the internet.
Yeah.
And we were like ostriches in the sand. We just thought it'd come and go. But actually fundamentally changed our business model. So I would say to entrepreneurs is read a lot, listen a lot, watch outside of your sector what's going on. Just because it's in another sector doesn't mean it's not going to come and affect you. Network and talk to as many entrepreneurs. Remember I talked about the journey being lonely because I didn't understand that. I didn't understand that ecosystem of going. But learn from other people, network with people better than you, mix with people better than you, stay focused, read in what I call environmental scanning. Scan the environment, see what's going on. Always mix, as I said, with people who are better than you. Stay focused. Can't do everything, so don't try and do everything. And find good people to work with, and find good people you can take counsel from. And if you respect others, they'll respect you. And the final comment, if someone rings you, ring them back. If someone emails you, email them back. Tomorrow you don't know where they're going to be. And they'll remember you for not doing that.
Yeah. Very wise words. Well, Ninder Johal, thank you for coming on the DME podcast.
Thank you very much for the invite.
I look forward to coming on to your next event.
Thank you.
Cheers.